how's it going, my truant people? Dr. Slacking, the Slacking Doctor, back on Pokemon Showdown with Week 9, I believe, in the PEBA. This week we're going up against my man Toastyrex and his Madison Mudkips. I believe he is in this league still, the Madison Mudkips. Toasty is one of the nicest people in the community. From the brief interactions I've had with him, he's always super sound. We had to have an extension this week because I was staying at Checkmate Ben's for the weekend, so I couldn't play. And then before that, I had my birthday, and I had my friend having a baby, and my friend having a wedding, and all sorts of things going on last week, which I've probably discussed at some point. I don't know if I've discussed that at some point on the channel, but maybe I have, maybe I haven't. But yeah, I just had a crazy week last week. If you saw our last week game in the PEBA against Todd, against Blake Trout, I've literally just finished recording that and started recording this. So that's why same clothes, same everything, same husky voice because I'm losing my voice and I've got a sore throat. Same messy hair and lack of glasses because I left them downstairs and I'm getting tired eyes and going blind. But nevertheless, we are here with this game against Toasty, and this one is going to be the best of all the ones I'm bulk recording because this one happened about 4 hours ago, so it is actually quite fresh in my memory. I can actually talk you guys through everything properly for once. So let's get into this and talk about the team that Toasty has, what we brought, why we brought it, and get into the battle after that. So Toasty has a really interesting draft, some scary threats, but I felt that my matchup was very good, and my front office, shout out to them for helping me. This team was largely a team that I built. Checkmate Ben helped me tweak one or two things, and one set in particular he helped me with. But for the most part, this is actually a Dr. Slacking build, which usually goes terribly. But shout out to my front office for helping me mock and stuff as well, which really helps me refine my sets and figure out my playstyle when it gets to the actual battle. We felt that I had a pretty good matchup in this one. Going into it, we thought I had a decent chance of winning this game on matchup alone. But I had to be very careful how I played it because Toasty just has threats on threats on threats. So, starting off, Azumarill. Belly Drum Azumarill, terrifying. Toasty's shown a liking for Whirlpool Perish Trap Azumarill. Did not bother me at all. If he brought that, I knew that I beat it every time. If you brought Belly Drum Azumarill, that thing potentially just sweeps teams. You have to be so careful how you play around Belly Drum Azumarill. It could have a terrible matchup, but if the right things get the right amount of chip, then it just wins. Belly Drum Pokemon are like that, especially with priority, so you always have to be careful. Then he has Crobat, Umbreon, Diancie, that's regular Diancie, Tangela, Mega Garchomp, Galvantula, Emboar, Espeon, Cobalion, and Cloyster. Emboar and Diancie, the Z uses. Now, Z Diancie is a really interesting one. I think he gets some cool techs like Z Heal Bell and stuff like that. But it's not necessarily offensively that scary. And Z Emboar, I'm not a huge fan of. I think Emboar benefits from things like Life Orb, Choice Band, or Choice Scarf. But Z Emboar will definitely hit like a truck. Absolutely will. So that's worth bearing in mind too. Other threats in his team, Mega Garchomp, although slower than regular Garchomp with that base 170 attack, I think it is hits so hard. Cobalion's a really cool Pokemon. It's got Stealth Rocks, Volt Switch, you can have setup. Blummin Strumpful again decided, I don't know if he's caught the last week's battle, but I mentioned that he brought like an Entei that he was running like a Crocoon with like Calm Mind sub lefties. Well, he brought Crobalion. There you go, new set, guys. Crobalion he brought against me. Calm Mind sub lefties Cobalion and swept me with it. I don't know why Strumpful does this to me, but he does all the time. Every time he brings a mon with substitute on it, I just seem to lose to it. Nightmare, absolute nightmare. But anyway, yes, Cobalion was scary. Cloyster, if it gets a Shell Smash off, can just sweep you. It's a very scary Pokemon. Galvantula setting up sticky webs could be a potential problem. Tangela actually can be a really effective wall. Umbreon as a wish passer is fantastic and can be very bulky. And Crobat actually is a really great check for some of the things on my team. So he has kind of just threat on threat on threat. There's nothing on his draft. Espeon's the only Pokemon I haven't mentioned there, and Espeon's just a decent special attacker that hits hard, so there's nothing wrong with that. And Magic Bounce can be useful too. So, yeah, and potential Calm Mind Baton Pass as well to pass some stats into stuff which I've been beaten by before, or beaten with before. No, beaten by before. I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. I'm very tired. It's like 2 AM. But, yeah, so he has just a lot of threats on his team. So here we go. Let's get into my team. This is a set that Checkmate particularly helped me with. Originally, we had something else here that I'm forgetting. Celebi. Originally, I had a Celebi build to try and check the Mega Garchomp. We decided that was a little bit overkill. I had enough for the Mega Garchomp regardless. So we decided to bring Kiano, reuse, Choice Scarf, Adaptability, of course, Porygon Z. Scarf this week instead of Specs because we're not trying to two-hit KO walls that want to switch in. We're trying to pick things off potentially late game with the tri-attack. Kind of how we used against Todd with that agility set, that kind of idea. Or maybe just punch a hole late game, similarly. Choice Scarf, Ice Beam is something that once he knows I'm Choice Scarf, the Garchomp always has to be scared of it. So that's really, really awesome. Hidden Power Steals, just if I ended up on a one-on-one with the Diancie, which really was his only great switch into this thing, then I could take it out. I would never likely click anything but Tri-Attack. I don't want to over-predict in this game. Tri-Attack still did like 70% to an uninvested Mega Garchomp. And Trick was there if, again, there was something I wanted to trick, like the Diancie. Although with it being a Z user, that was kind of risky. I'd be more likely to click HP Steel, which is why I have that. But maybe something like a Tangela would hate having a Choice Scarf tricked onto it. The Umbreon would hate having a Choice Scarf tricked onto it. Things like that. Potential Bulky, Black Sludge, Crobat wouldn't really appreciate it. It would stop it from roosting up on things. So yeah, there's various things that wouldn't overly want a Choice Scarf, which makes the trick kind of useful, but primarily this is just Tri-Attack spam. Next up we have the Dutchman, and this set was suggested by Sean, aka the Blind Messiah. He saw, I believe, Tony running this set. Tony's another more recent friend of mine who's joined the LTC and who's in the UCC. Really, really cool guy. I believe it was Tony that ran this set. And inspired Sean to suggest it to me. It's a max speed, modest Choice Specs Jellicent. Because it just beats a Belly Drum at Azumarill one-on-one every single time. As he clicks Belly Drum, you go into Jellicent. He assumes that his Azumarill, if it has speed investment, will outspeed your Jellicent. So he clicks Knockoff or Play Rough. And then Choice Specs Sludge Wave does a huge amount of damage after he's already whittled down his HP with Belly Drum plus Citrus Berry. He's not going to take the Sludge Wave that does minimum, like, I think it does like 75 to 85% or 80 to 90%. It doesn't OHKO, but after a Belly Drum plus Citrus, it usually OHKOs, I think. And then Hydro Bump just for big damage. I hate running Hydro Bump. I'm always petrified of the miss. But this set wasn't really here to click Hydro Pump. It was just here to check Azumarill and Azumarill only. If it was Perish Trap Azumarill, it couldn't Whirlpool me and trap me because I have Water Absorb, so it just wasn't great against me at all. That's why I wasn't scared of Perish Trap Azumarill. Shadow Ball for stab and to hit the Espeon really, really nicely. To hit the Cloyster as well on that special side with Cloyster having such bad special defense. This thing would outspeed a uninvested Cloyster for sure, because Cloyster's normal speed is 70, so base speed is 70, so we would be able to outspeed an uninvested Cloyster. That kind of thing. Cloyster probably doesn't OHKO me with anything anyway, so we could potentially fire off a really big Shadow Ball into that. Ice Beam for the Mega Garchomp, of course, a Crobat as well if I didn't want to just spam Hydro Pump against that for stab. And Sludge Wave, as we've already said, for the Azumarill. So really, really cool Jellicent set there. Different to any kind of Jellicent I've ever run before, but I was definitely excited to use this Dutchman set. Next up, Old World Mandibuzz. This was our Mega Garchomp counter. Stone Edge, or, well, Edge Crate coverage, it can be really, really effective, but Stone Edge never did too much to Mandibuzz. I even lived one after a Hone Claws, which Strongful brought in a prep game, and then Foul Play did a chunk. Rocky Helmet was on there for the Crobat, so I could switch into Brave Bird, spam, and really wear it down with Recoil plus Rocky Helmet. Also for the Cobalion that might want to come in on this thing with predicting a Dark-type move and get a Justified boost. And the Emboar. Unless the Emboar locked into Wild Charge, if it was a Choice Scarf Emboar, it shouldn't be able to two-hit KO me with anything, meaning that I could just wear it down with Rocky Helmet plus Flare Blitz, Recoil, say, or Superpower. It would just lower its own attack, and then I could probably start roosting after maybe a couple of Superpowers. So yeah, really, really effective Mandibuzz set here to be a physical wall with Foul Play, Roost, Defog. Obviously Foul Play to wear things down, Roost for longevity, Defog to get rid of hazards. But Tailwind here was a really interesting tech. I was back and forth at the end as to whether I wanted this. This was a move that I always had on this build, but I wasn't sure if U-Turn was better. I wasn't sure if Brave Bird was better. But ultimately I decided to go for Tailwind because if I could get in the Nidoking, which we'll get to later, or the Porygons even, but the Nidoking especially in under Tailwind, it just killed things. It just punched a hole through his team every time in prep that I got it in under Tailwind. So that was really, really important there to kind of keep that, to have the courage to keep that, because I don't often run Tailwind. And then this was our win con. Mega Altaria was supposed to come in late game and clean up against Strumpful, I think it was. I just got to +1 and beat everything, essentially, with just a little bit of chip. Return does so much damage to the Umbreon, to the Azumarill still, to the Mega Diancie, even trying to come in on a switch. The Tangler didn't particularly want to take it. The Garchomp really didn't want to take it. The Emboar actually would get one shot, depending on the Emboar build, by a +1 return, which is incredible. Cobalion would get 2-hit KO'd, depending on the build, by a +1 return. Cloyster could take it, to be fair. Cloyster, Tangler, they could take it okay. But really, everything else didn't want to. Draco Meteor is on here exactly for that. Cloyster and the Tangler, because while they have fantastic physical defense, their special defense is pretty bad, especially the Cloyster. And what's quite interesting here is that a return into a Draco Meteor, a +1 return into a Draco Meteor, should guarantee a knockout on a defensive Crobat, especially after Stealth Rock damage. So if I could get Rocks up, it gets +1, you click Return, then you click Draco, and Crobat just drops, which is amazing, because that is by far and away his best switch-in. Crobat, in fact, is his only switch-in, really, and if I wanted to predict it early game, I could just click the Draco. Steel Wing was to make sure that I could clean up if that Mega Diancie, or the regular Diancie, was still around late game, and Dragon Dance, of course, for setup. Steel Wing, I didn't think he would expect. He could have been Babiri Berry for the Durant and the Metagross, but I wasn't even sure he would necessarily bring the Diancie because of the Durant and the Metagross. So yeah, really, really fun build. Enough speed on here to outspeed something at +1, probably everything on his draft at +1. That's not what I meant to open. This is what I meant to open. The fastest thing on his draft being the Crobat. I'm assuming that this at +1 outsped the Crobat. That would make perfect sense if I wanted to then Draco it. So yeah, pretty sure that's what that was. We have this 40, even though we're at minus attack nature. This 40, as I say, means the return and Draco Meteor does enough to sort out the Crobat and to OHKO a Cloyster with Draco Meteor. I think in max HP, Cloyster with no Spadef investment gets OHKO'd by Draco Meteor, which is awesome. The natural cure before we Mega Evolve, just to make sure I can switch in on things like a Toxic and switch it back out, or a Thunder Wave or something like that. And then our penultimate Pokemon here, Nidoking. Really, really cool Nidoking set this week. As I say, I wanted to get this thing in under Tailwind ideally, or in against things that are outsped, because we have this rash nature. His best switch into Nidoking, in my opinion, was the Umbreon, and Sludge Wave into Superpower should take out a Spadef Umbreon every single time, which I just thought was really, really awesome. Then we have Earth Power to try and hit. I mean, it's Stab for starters, but to also hit things like the Diancie, potential Roost from the Crobat, the Galvantula maybe, but Cobalion in particular did not appreciate an Earth Power. Sludge Wave, as I said, for things like the Galvantula, the Azumarill, the Mega the regular Diancie, I don't know why I keep saying Mega, and Ice Beam to try and scare out that Garchomp or punch a hole in that Garchomp if he's a slow build. Yeah, so that's our Nidoking set there. Enough speed, speed creep, something, and the rash nature, because I wanted to keep that attack with the 4 attack to make sure that superpower OHKO, so that's why we have that. I'm not sure what the speed investment is for exactly, but it was for probably something like max speed Emboar, if I had to guess. Last up, How Now Blue Cow, our Miltank with a thick fat, and this week I actually remembered Milk Drink, so we have Recovery, which is amazing. This is a really, really Spadef set with just a little bit of defense. I think it was supposed to take on the Cloyster, that's it, with a thick fat ability, meaning we could take on the Cloyster, and even Flare Blitz from Emboar doesn't 2-hit KO with this much defense investment through the thick fat. So if he was a Scarf Emboar in particular, and I saw him lock into Flare Blitz, then I could just switch into this thing and Milk Drink it off all day and watch him take Recoil, get my rocks up, Toxic something like the Umbreon, or the Diancie, or the Garchomp, and Seismic Toss to wear these things down as well, make sure nothing really wants to sub up on me. So yeah, really, really cool build here, I think. Particularly, as I said, Checkmate Ben helped with the Porygon Z set. Sean helped with the Jellicent set. And Checkmate Ben gave me the reassurance that Tailwind was definitely the right move to go for, and the prep and the mocks showed me that. And then it was his suggestion to run the Steel Wing for the Diancie, which was a really, really nice tech before I had Hyper Voice on there, so that I could spam a special move without dropping my special attack. But we realised that probably wasn't necessary, and Steel Wing would come in more useful. So shout out to those guys for that help with the build, and shout out to the rest of my front office for helping me mock. Without wasting any more of your time, let's jump into battle and see how we got. So here we are in the battle, guys, and you can see that he brings a very, very interesting team, in my opinion. We don't see the Emboar, we don't see the Crobat, We don't see the Diancie. We don't see the Espeon. We don't see the... I think that's everything we expect to see, actually. Yeah, they're the things we expect to see. Oh, we don't see the Umbreon. So I'm looking at this and thinking, wow. So here's... Nidoking switch-ins are... Well, let's run through it. Azumarill doesn't want a Sludge Wave. Garchomp doesn't want an Ice Beam. Galvantula doesn't want a Sludge Wave or an Earth Power. Tangela doesn't want a Ice Beam or a Sludge Wave. Cobalion doesn't want an Earth Power. And Cloyster doesn't even want to be tickled on the special side. So it definitely doesn't want any of those. So I'm just looking at it like, wow, Nidoking really puts in the work here. He does not have a Nidoking switch in at all. And in terms of Altaria, he doesn't have a return switch in without that Crobat there. Return hits everything, and the things that return doesn't hit, being the Tangler and the Cloyster for big damage, Draco hits them instead. So again, really looking at it, thinking my two offensive win cons are amazing. The Porygon Z does have some switch-ins in the Cobalion. In the Cobalion is the Porygon Z switch-in. So really my three offensive mons, he has one switch-in for all three. And that, to me, just was amazing at team matchup. I was like, okay, this makes me feel a lot more confident. I didn't see some of the things, but it also worried me because I know that Toasty is a very good player and I know he's a very creative builder. So I was like, okay, so what has he brought? What techs does he have that I'm not sure about? And what do I need to be careful of? Because that means he's brought a very offensive team. So Belly Drum and Azumarill can still sweep me. Shell Smash, Skill Link, Cloyster can still beat me. Potential setup Cobalion, as we saw that Calm Mindset, can still beat me. So I still have to be really, really careful about how I play here. Sticky Web from Galvantula could really put a problem for things like the Nidoking and the Porygon Z. So looking at his team, I figured that his most likely leads were either the Galvantula, the Cobalion, or the Garchomp, being Stealth Rocks on the Garchomp, maybe. Stealth Rocks on the Cobalion or Volt Switch maybe, and Volt Switch or Sticky Web on the Galvantula. Looking at that, I felt that Nidoking was a great matchup. Potential bluffing the Scarf, or at least getting some information on the Garchomp with Ice Beam. Getting some information on the Galvantula or breaking its Sash if it's a Sticky Web lead, and if it isn't, then Sludge Wave is just going to OHKO it. And maybe getting a big Earth Power off on the Cobalion. So for that reason, I felt that Nidoking was by far and away our best lead, and he might overpredict thinking that it was just a Stealth Rock lead, but he actually chose to lead with the Garchomp. And here I'm thinking, okay, he's going to think that I'm a Stealth Rock lead, not a Scarf Nidoking. However, I don't think he can take that risk. So if he stays in here, it's because he 100% thinks he outspeeds non-Scarf Nidoking, because Mega Garchomp's space speed is higher than mine. So if he stays in, he definitely thinks he outspeeds me, which tells me he's probably an offensive threat or an offensive build, and that's fine. I have a very, very easy switch in Mandibuzz. So rather than taking the risk and going for the Ice Beam here and potentially getting OHKO'd by the Earthquake, I thought I'm not going to take any risks early game because I know I'm not Scarf. I'm just going to scout just to see whether he thinks he's safe. And he actually does reveal to have the Earthquake, which tells me that he should be a fast set, or maybe a really bulky set, but I think probably a fast set. So I just go for the foul play. He goes out into Cobalion, and I think, well, that's fine. Cobalion at +1 isn't great, but I'm pretty sure I can just wall that out still with my Mandibuzz. It's going to have to take Rocky Helmet damage. Depending on what coverage moves he has, he can't hit me super hard. I can still come in with Scarf, PZ, and kill it later. I might have to just let my Mandibuzz go down here. But I've scared out the Garchomp and I can start wearing things down. And I'm pretty confident of handling the Garchomp late game anyway. So I'm happy just to stay in here. And I believe I just go for a Roost, unless I'm mistaken. I think I went for a Roost there, but he flinches me. Which is fine. I just want to start wearing him down with Rocky Helmet damage. But he actually reveals to be SD as I go for a Roost again here. And this is a moment where I kind of crap myself a little bit, if I'm honest with you guys, because looking at this, he's now at +3 attack with that justified boost plus the Swords Dance. And I need to play my way around this really, really carefully. I know something dies here. There's no way I preserve anything in this exchange. So I have to let something drop. Or I could maybe play around very carefully and preserve. But I wouldn't even begin to try that. It'd be far too risky and could end up losing the game. So I decided to just stay in with Old World. And I think I fire off a foul play or a Roost this turn. I'm not sure which. Oh no, I go for the Tailwind now. That's it. I go for the. I thought I went for the Tailwind next turn. I go for the Tailwind now because with the Tailwind, I can definitely revenge kill this thing every day with Nidoking. He might be Shooker, but then that would put him in range of the Porygon Z's Tri-Attack anyway. So I just click Tailwind. I'm just gonna let him put me down here. I believe I go for a Foul Play this turn because I'm faster with the Tailwind. That's why I did it that way around, to make sure that I got the Tailwind up first, making I outspeed, and then I could click Foul Play. That's why I did it that way. I'm smarter in the battle than I am after the battle. And that, even through Shooker, puts him in range of the Nidoking. That's why. And as I said, he has no Nidoking switching. He could switch into Tangler, sure, but he's going to take a bigger Earth Power, and then he's going to drop to a Sludge Wave, so there's really no point. And then his Sludge Wave switching would be this again, which would then drop to an Earth Power. So it really doesn't make a lot of sense for him to try pivoting around. He could try, but he would probably lose that exchange. So I just Earth Power here, don't need to make a read, and he does drop, and indeed he goes into Tangler. Now here I think that he's trying to stall out my Tailwind turn. So as you see, I go for the Ice Beam because Ice Beam has a chance to OHKO depending on his spread, and if he's going into the Garchomp on a Sludge Wave trying to stall out my last Tailwind turn, which I think would have been a really good play, I OHKO that as well. So and at the worst case scenario, what can Tangler even do to a Nidoking? I mean, maybe it can knock off, maybe it can infestation or something, but as you see there, we do get the crit, meaning that we do OHKO the Tangler. As I say, I don't know his set. I think Max Spadef took something like 80% max roll, 70% max roll, but uninvested was going to do maybe a chance to OHKO. I'm really not sure on that roll. But I don't think it affected the game particularly because I don't know what Tangler would even have done to me. We'll see as it goes on. That is my final turn of Tailwind though, and he's already shown that he's not scared of this Garchomp. That makes me think he's faster. So I'm just going to go out into Miltank, which I know is a roll to be 2-hit KO by this Earthquake. He has a 10% chance to OHKO me there if he is adamant 252. But the fact that he's been staying in on the Nidoking makes me think that he's not adamant. Makes me think that he's jolly, which makes me feel pretty secure that we're going to live that. Now, that damage does actually suggest that he might be adamant. But doing 52% with the first one, the leftovers taking us back to 54 means we can take another. And all I actually have to do here is put this thing in range of PZ, which will do like 80% to it, I think. So he fires off another Earthquake. And I just go for the Seismic Toss, and now he's in PZ range as far as I'm concerned. This seems to be max speed, adamant Garchomp, it looks. So I'm just like, okay, we'll take that, we put him in PZ range, we go out to PZ, and now we don't have to predict. We just click Choice Scarf Tri-Attack, and this thing should die. As far as I'm concerned, the calcs that I'm seeing, this thing should die. Seems to be that way. And he goes out into the Cloyster, trying to read the Ice Beam there. Completely makes sense. I understand why he made that play. He wanted to preserve his Garchomp. Garchomp still was very, very useful against the rest of my team. Especially that Nidoking, as we've already pointed out. The rest of his team could just lose to the Nidoking. So I completely understand that play, not wanting to take the Ice Beam. But because we don't overpredict, because we're pretty confident we might just OHKO him with a Tri-Attack anyway. Or take out the Garchomp from 72% with the Tri-Attack anyway. We just click Tri-Attack, we don't overpredict, and the Cloyster drops. Perfect. That's a major, major threat out of the way, and it's not Focus Sash, which is really nice. And then this thing might be Focus Sash, and what's really important here, as we click that Tri-Attack and we do bring it down to his Sash, is that if I switch out, I really have to talk through this turn a little bit. If I switch out here, predicting him to be Focus Sash and not wanting to take any damage on Porygon Z, and he goes for Sticky Webs, when Porygon Z comes back in, I no longer outspeed that Garchomp. I no longer guarantee... Well, I do outspeed the Azumarill, but I don't particularly want to take Otter than Azumarill at -1 speed. I want to be able to force him into the Aqua Jet. I think I would anyway, to be fair. It's mainly the Garchomp. So I don't want to switch out on this thing in case he sets up webs. Yes, he might be able to Thunder me, but he doesn't outspeed me. Yes, he might get the Para, and then he'll outspeed me and 2-hit KO me. But it's just worth staying in, bringing him down to his Sash, and making sure that I don't overpredict and lose to a Sticky Web here. And he does actually reveal to be packing the Sticky Web. So thank God we stayed in and did that. And we do 2-hit KO the Garvantula. We absolutely made the right play there, not switching out. And I'm really glad that I thought of that before I considered switching. And here we just spam the Tri-Attack. And at this point, I thought I've won the game. At the point where he's just had the Garchomp in against this, I figured I pretty much won, save for a paralysis. from the Galvantula, because I knew that I one-shot Cloister if it wasn't sashed. I knew that I one-shot Galvantula if it wasn't sashed and outsped it if it didn't get a paralysis. I thought I took out the Garchomp, and I had a roll to Oko the Azumarill, which couldn't Oko me with an Aqua Jet. So it looked from like turn 10-ish, turn 11-ish that we just won. However, he turns out to be a really bulky Garchomp, taking just 62% from that Tri-Attack. I'm just going to show you again, because this is showing me on all of my rolls that I 100% do this much damage to him. I always do 72% to him is what I'm seeing. But he actually has enough bulk to take that with 10% left. And he fires off an EQ, but it's not enough to Oko me. Meaning we can just spam that final Tri-Attack. I know that I'm now in Aqua Jet range. And I could try and switch out and play around it. But it's really not worth, because I think I have a chance to Oko this Azumarill. And once again, he shows to be really, really bulky Azumarill. I spoke to him after the game, and he's actually, I believe, 252 HP's Azumarill, or 248 HP Azumarill. Which was like, wow, I did not expect. I thought way back at turn 10, I had won this game. I thought the Porygon Z just swept through with Tri-Attack, depending on rolls. But no, he is a really, really bulky Azumarill here. And he actually types in the chat, GG at this point. And I'm thinking, GG? GG as in you just beat me now? Does this thing just completely beat me under webs? Because if he has speed, then he outspeeds Jellicent and kills it. With a knockoff. If he has Play Rough, which he's just shown, he might outspeed the Altaria and kill me. Although actually with webs up, thinking about it, Altaria isn't affected by webs. But either way, I was panicking. I was like, oh god, what does he mean GG? What do I not know here? I got swept by a Scarf Azumarill in prep, so I was like, oh, is this Scarf? That's it. If it was Scarf Azumarill with Play Rough, then I don't think I could Oko the Jellicent, to be fair, or the Nidoking. But either way, I was just panicking. I was like, what does he mean GG? So here I tried to play really carefully, and I go into Jellicent, trying to figure out what his set is. I know Jellicent might drop to a knockoff here, but it seems worth it. We fire off the Sludge Wave, and I should have read this, I should have realized this, because of the little damage he took from the Tri-Attack, he had 0 speed investment. I don't know why that didn't occur to me at the time. It just didn't. I just didn't think about it, I guess, that he was 0 speed if he had that much HP. So even with the webs up, we still outspeed, which really took me by surprise. Even 0 speed, I didn't think we would outspeed. And we do just take him out with the Sludge Wave, so Dutchman claims another kill there, which is awesome. And we win 3-0 against my man Toastyrex. As ever, his prep is wild, and it just caught me off guard so many times. Bulky Garchomp, bulky Azumarill, the Tangela coming, which I didn't expect to come at all. The Cobalion being a Sword Stance set. I didn't think it would be set up Cobalion. I thought it would be Rock's Pivot Cobalion. So yeah, just really caught me off guard with a few things. But thankfully, our prep with that Scarf PZ really, really came through. And even if that hadn't, as I said, it just turned out that his team, my matchup was just so good. That's what I say. Toasty, if you're watching, if you've made it this far, unlucky. I think this is just one of those weeks where you come up against a draft that just speed tiers, typings, whatever, just matches up and you have a suckish matchup. Like, I just think your matchup was awful. And that's really not your fault, because your draft is great. Your draft is really, really scary. It just works out that way sometimes. I had it against Elliot a few weeks ago, the one guy, where I just couldn't handle Dual Dance Landorus, so Double Dance Landorus. So it just happens sometimes. All that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this battle. What this now means for us is that we are sitting at, this is week 9, we're sitting at 6 wins, 3 losses, I believe, in the PEBA, with 3 games left, one of which is against someone who's a direct rival for a playoff spot. But crucially, Luke, Eevee Master, both lost this week. So the 2 other teams that were on 5 and 3 going into this game, they both lost. So they're now at 5 and 4, whilst I've moved up to 6 and 3, putting me as the number 3 spot in our division. Only Ace, who smacked us, and Strompful, who smacked us, are above us in our division. They're the only 2 coaches above us, and I think that's pretty damn good going to say they're the only 2 coaches above us. They're both awesome players. So I'm really, really happy to say that. And then Isaac, my man Isaac, actually won again. I think he has 6-0'd his last 3 opponents. He is, since we beat him week 1, he lost like 2 or 3 in a row, and then since then he has just been going mad. So he is now also at 5-4. So you have the top 2 pretty much untouchable at this point. And then you have us at 6-3 and 3 teams at 5-4. And we play Eevee Master, I believe, next week. So if we can win against Eevee Master either next week or the week after, we have an incredible chance of making playoffs, because one of those 3 other teams that are vying with us, we would essentially be putting out of that race. So hopefully, guys, we can continue this run that we've been on, this little mini run that we started to put together across all leagues at this point. I've only lost 1 game out of my last... Man, we must be getting on for nearly 10 games at this point. Like, 5 to 10 games, I've only lost like 1 out of the last 5 to 10, I think. We run a really, really purple patch of form at the minute. It's been awesome. So hopefully we can keep pushing on. Hopefully we can win the next 3 and make playoffs in PEBA, which would just be insane. At the start of the season, when I saw our division, I said I wanted to prove that I could play with the big boys. I wanted to prove that I could hold my own in a top division or in a top league. I didn't mean make playoffs. I just meant give a good account of myself, give some good games, run people some close. To say that we might make playoffs is incredible. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this season. Hopefully you will enjoy the final 3 weeks leading up to playoffs, and hopefully we can make it. Hopefully we can do our bit and just get across that finish line. Anyway, guys, I'm going to stop rambling on because I need to go to sleep. You can probably tell I am just absolutely exhausted. Thank you so much for loafing around with me, and I'll catch you again next time.